practice, just getting it down perfectly. And of course, having the coordination with all of the dancers and everything. We talked about the idea, somebody like a Tiger Woods or a Michael Jordan. If you saw the documentary recently with Michael Jordan, how, they will sit there and practice something for thousands and thousands and thousands of times so that the muscle memory becomes part of their subconscious. And then that way, when it's time to perform, they can do so without even thinking about it. It's what makes somebody a master at something versus somebody that is just an amateur at something. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your host, Brad Blazer, once again on Beast Nation. I am the guy that's been called a lot of things, but most people just refer to me as the Robin Hood of knowledge, because what I bring is information and content from those that have it, and I share it with those that need it the most. Today, I've got a phenomenal guest. This individual has spoken on the stage there at 10X alongside Cardone. He is an entrepreneur, CEO, and founder of a company called Pioneers of Marketing, and he is a specialist and a ninja when it comes to building your presence on social media. Hey, good afternoon, Matt Buchanan. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's not every day we get to talk to successful entrepreneurs that are in their 20s, and it's certainly no secret that you've been successful. You're doing great things. And so we wanted to host you and bring you on to Beast Nation. Let's just kind of start and dive right in. What was it that really made you want to be an entrepreneur rather than going down the path of quote, a traditional career?
I love that. And thank you again for having me on here. I mean, I've been checking you out. That's why I sent you that message over on social media. It's so amazing what you're doing. Seriously, it's so.
We got man crushes on each other.
Yeah, exactly. But in all seriousness, to answer your question, I remember my mom was always, when I was younger, because I would go out and I would mow people's lawns with my grandpa. He'd take me from house to house and I'd trim their weeds and do all that stuff outside and do everything, cut their grass, trim their hedges, like everything. And long story short, I always remember my mom saying, when are you going to get a real job? When are you going to, you know what I'm saying? So for me, it was always the math behind it. I could make more money in 1 hour cutting somebody's lawn than I could working 7 hours making $8 an hour at just a grocery store. So for me, it was just the math behind it of how I could control where I wanted to go a lot faster. And then I also just had a big interest in this too. I'm just being brutally transparent with you. It was obviously the money, the control of the time. But then the third one as well was I had a lot of interest in terms of how business worked and how sales worked. I didn't have interest in science. I didn't have interest in algebra. I didn't have interest in you know what I'm saying, all those different things. But I always had an interest in how does somebody start with nothing and build a business with hundreds of people in there and clients that are customers that they're serving all around. So I always had that interest and just that curiosity. And then when I got hurt with baseball, when I was in junior year and then again freshman year in college, junior year in high school, freshman year in college, when I got hurt again, I was never the type of person where I was like, you know what, I'm just not going to do anything. I'm just going to play Xbox. That's just not who I am. I always need to be doing something. I'm not saying I'm right or I'm wrong or you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying one's right or one's wrong. It's just with me, I hate sitting still. I always like doing my thing. So I just started reading a lot of books, watching a lot of YouTube videos, which I'm sure we all see all that free content out there.
Yep.
And I just started buying more books and then going to more conferences and more events. And then just one thing led to the next. And now, which is really insane, in the last 8 months, my business has taken off. Like I was mentioning to you when we were talking the other day, it's grown by 2,100% in about 8 months, which is 31 times faster than the average business. And a lot of people, they'll hear me say that and they're like, oh, you're just bragging. Why? But I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that to brag, because they don't know that I've been out door knocking for the first 2.5 years, literally across the entire East Coast. Like I would literally go out for 5 days at a span in between weekends, and I would go out and door knock, and then I would come back like not come back, but I'd get back to my car at night and I'd type in Google cheapest hotel near me, like literally find the cheapest hotel near me. And then I would go to that hotel. I would sleep there. I remember one time I was in Philadelphia and this hotel was nasty. It was disgusting. There was like trash under the bed. And I'm pretty sure I saw a rat at some point in there. It was disgusting. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I literally spent 2.5 years, two years, more like 2 years and 9 months hustling like that, cold calling, door knocking.
Yeah.
So,
it's what you call building the foundation. It's kind of getting to a point where you're doing exactly what you did. It's the hustle and the grind. It's what Matt Monero calls grit. It's, getting in the trenches. It's doing the work that builds an empire. In entrepreneurship, there's something that I've become very aware of, and it's called the iceberg principle. When you're successful, what people see is a part of the iceberg that's above water. What they don't see is everything, of course, that's below water, which when you look at an iceberg's mass is actually much bigger than the visible part. And it's the same thing about being a successful entrepreneur. People look at you today and he's like, oh, lucky dude. Oh, he must have, been born with a silver spoon in his mouth or had some money to start. They don't realize that, like you said, the 2.5 years of door knocking, sleeping in crappy hotels, with cockroaches and pizza boxes under the bed and, mold in the shower where it's like, maybe I won't take a shower today type thing. I mean, I've been there, and it's the dedication to kind of the dream and the vision of what you want as an entrepreneur for yourself, but then having the grit and having the determination to actually, stick it out and go for it. Now, you mentioned baseball. Obviously, you were a ball player. When you were growing up and when you were kind of in high school and playing, was that kind of the vision? Did you want to be a pro ball player?
Yeah, that was definitely a goal that I had. I would say it was more of a dream though than a goal looking back.
Yeah.
Like I worked at it, don't get me wrong, but I didn't know what really working at it meant. Like I wasn't dedicating every hour to it, all of my money that I possibly had into learning from it. I wasn't fully committed. That's the issue. I was not fully committed. And that's one of the things that I learned about from being around Grant and Jared is how, regardless if you like them or you don't like them, they were talking about commitment. And when you really commit to something, you have to commit your time, your money, and your energy. And with me, with baseball, I was not fully committed in any of those areas with baseball. So was it a dream? Yeah, it was definitely a dream. Was it a goal? Yeah, it was a goal, but I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. And I definitely didn't have the confidence that I do now either. I didn't have that confidence. I was confident. I wasn't definitely not the best baseball player in the room. I just always worked at it. That's all I did is I literally worked at it every single day. I worked out every day. I would find trainers and learn from them. But like I mentioned, I just wasn't fully committed to it. But who knows? Maybe I'll come back in a few years.
Well, you never know. One of the people I've interviewed on Beast Nation is Dana Cavalier, who was the performance coach for the Yankees.
Wow.
And, much like you, he grew up in New York and kind of had a dream and a vision, wanted to be a ball player. And when he got to college, realized he wasn't as good as he thought he was, because every time you move up the ladder, you realize, oh, I'm not as great as I thought I was, because now you're surrounded with a whole group of people that are at the same level or better. And so he went to school down at the University of Southern Florida. And obviously down there, it's where the Yankees have their spring training. And the person that was actually his mentor / coach at the university said, hey, I got a call from the Yankees and they're looking for an intern just to go basically, carry towels around the locker room and, paint the weights and basically do all the grunt work that nobody else wants to do, carry the spitball. He's like, you up for it? He's like, hell yeah, I'm up for it. So he goes over there, and before you know it, he's got a lanyard that gives him a pass to the stadium. And, he's walking around with all of his idols. And one thing led to another, where ultimately he became the performance coach for the New York Yankees. Went, of course, won the series in 2009. And he talks about this concept of, you got to go pro. And it's an interesting concept because I think, like you said about your love for baseball, but the fact that you weren't totally dedicated to it, kind of like Grant would say, is it's kind of like you have a casual interest in something, right? And there's a big difference between having a casual interest in something or having a casual interest in your future. versus being totally committed 100%. Mark Cuban says there's a big difference between being a entrepreneur and being an entrepreneur. In my book, I have a chapter that says commit like a pig. And if you've ever heard the story about the pig and the chicken, a pig is totally committed to giving us bacon. A chicken is only casually interested in providing us with eggs. And so I tell people, if you're going to commit, you want to commit like a pig. You're giving your life, you're giving it your all, you're totally in 100%.
I love that.
Let's talk a little bit about Pioneers in Marketing, your company. You guys are big into Instagram, social media, basically helping people create a major presence on Instagram, increasing, their following. How did you learn kind of how to do this? I mean, I understand what you do, where you take individuals like little old Brad Blazer, you kind of partner them up with big time celebrities that'll give them shout outs and stuff like that. And then boom, you get organic growth because you're getting followers. But I mean, how did you first learn about some of these secrets on how to kind of, I won't say manipulate because that's really not the right word, but really just, organically grow people's followings?
Yeah, that's a great question. So with me, like I was mentioning to you, when I stopped playing baseball, I was looking for an outlet. I was looking for something to dive into. And I worked at Verizon Wireless, started running a little bit of their social media, just kind of dabbled in literally just by testing and learning, reading a book, testing it out, reading a book, testing it out. That gave me, a little bit of in terms of how to use some of the technical stuff. But what really helped me is by drafting mentors that were already achieving exactly what it is that I wanted to achieve, and then just duplicating exactly what it is they were telling me that I needed to do to achieve the same thing they were doing. So the first mentor with me that helped me with social media was a really fast growing gym startup. His name was Ben. And I remember the first time I met Ben, I looked at him and I was like, this is somebody I would never guess is like this. Cause he had like 20, 25 gyms. He was known around the area as like, he was voted as a, they were voted as Fortune 1030 fastest growing company in the country or the world, however that Fortune 500 goes, whatever, however that goes, but he was voted as Fortune 1050 or something like that. So I knew that he knew a lot about social media and marketing because he had to do that.
Sure.
And long story short, I learned from him. I worked with them for the course of, I think the whole 2017 or 2018. It was it was the year right after high school. So I guess that's 2017. And I literally just learned from him. I asked him questions. I worked for him for free, literally completely free of charge for 3 months long, just so I could have the opportunity just to learn from him and figure out what he's doing and just gain that knowledge. I was just really hungry. I still am hungry, but not as hungry as in terms of working for free for 3 months again. I'm not going to do that anytime soon, but I'm so happy that I did that. And, long story short, I went from there, and that's when I fully launched Pioneers of Marketing after that. I was kind of doing it while I was working with them, but it was only like kind of a part-time thing, Yeah. And then from there, after I learned that knowledge, that gave me a solid foundation because I already saw proven processes that were working for multiple different businesses all across the East Coast. So I ran with that. I learned from that. Then I was buying more courses and going to more events and then meeting more people and then just networking and just finding more people that were doing it just like Ben was, and then just learning from them, whether it was paying them to learn from them or working for them for free. But that's literally how I did it. And then fast forward over the past 3.5 years of just all that accumulated knowledge, it's definitely something I would say I'm very confident in.
You hit the nail on the head, and I want to kind of rewind because it's a concept that I actually share with a lot of people, and it's challenging, especially for people your age, to grasp this because I was, in my 20s once before. A little bit about my background. I was a CEO of a small oil company that I built up over the course of a decade. We were raising millions of dollars a month. I was 23 when I started. Most of my friends are out partying, goofing off on the weekends. And here I am figuring out how the hell I'm going to, make payroll and, raise another couple $100,000 to, go out and drill another well. But it's really the concept of taking a mentor over the money. And, you said that, what you did is you really sought people out. You said, hey, I'll work for free. Just teach me what you're doing. I want to emulate you. I want to learn their secrets to success. That's so hard for people to grasp is that, this concept of delayed gratification. So many people want to just go out there, make their 60, make their $80,000 or whatever the hell it is, not realizing that if you shadow somebody or you get a mentor, instead of taking the money and that dude's making $1 million, and then you start working alongside them, you learn their secrets, you learn what they're doing. Boom, instead of making your little 60 to 80,000, now you're making $400,000, $600,000 because you've learned those secrets. And I always tell people the key to success, because I believe success does leave secrets, is to find a coach or a mentor. Ask them basically if you can kind of shadow them or they can teach you. And, you did that basically, and you learned the process, and you kind of obviously from there built your company. But it's this concept of take the mentor over the money any day of the week.
Oh, I love that. I
in the long run, you'll end up being far better off. You'll avoid a lot of the mistakes of trying to figure this shit out on yourself. And I'm so happy that you actually realize that, because most people don't. And look at where you are today, founder of your own business, you're doing well, you're making money hand over fist. You've got great people in your network like Grant, you spoke at 10X. What was that like for you when you spoke at 10X? How did that come about? And more importantly, what were your feelings kind of going into that? Did you feel like, holy shit, I'm going to be speaking at 10X, this little kid, I'm not ready for that? What was going through your mind?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I've had so many people ask that same thing, because it's without a doubt the biggest conference, the biggest business conference in the whole world. I mean, there was 13,000 people at this one. There was 35,000 people at the last one.
I know.
35,000 people. So with me, when I first heard that, I was like, oh man, that's a lot of people, that's a lot of people. I've never spoken to anybody. I've never spoken to an audience even remotely close to that size. But I read a book, and it's probably somewhere over here. I forget where it is, but I read a book a little while ago, and it talks about how you can trick your brain to believing that you're excited about something when you're actually scared of it. So if you're scared of something, your brain has the same chemical that releases than it does when you're excited. Sure. So with me, I kid you not, this is literally, you're asking my feelings and approaching that. This is literally the story behind it. I literally tricked myself for 4 weeks leading up to that event, just convincing myself. I literally convinced myself and sold myself on the idea of how excited I was to speak on the 10X Growth Conference, because this is the opportunity that I was waiting for. I was waiting for 3 years to be able to speak to an audience of 13,000 people that would actually trust me, rather than door knocking in the middle of mid-city Manhattan to 40 people out of 41 that would tell me to get lost. So I literally just convinced myself of how big of an opportunity this was and how excited I was about this. So then when it was when they called me on stage, and ended up being a different time than what I thought, they literally pulled me up, and I was like, all right, let's go. And I'm not even kidding. When I got on there, I was good. I was good, because not only did I convince myself mentally about that, but I also rehearsed it like every other day or something like that, in terms of exactly how I was going to walk on stage and all those things. So I'm just being transparent with you. Obviously, I was scared when I was first thinking about it and stuff like that. But then I literally just convinced myself mentally, and then just role played it in my head about exactly how I was going to do it. And it was definitely one of the most amazing experiences of my entire life, hands down.
Yeah.
It was just so amazing.
I've seen.
And I'm not saying that to brag. It was just so amazing.
Well, I mean, not only that, but I mean, you did an awesome job. I mean, I've seen some of the clips, and it's the preparation. It's what you did before you ever got there. It's the work. It's the repetition. It's rehearsing not only in your mind but also in your body. I mean, I was talking to Matt Knowles, who of course is the father to Beyonce and Solange and Destiny's Child. Of course, he was very involved in their success, and he said, people don't realize that Beyonce will literally practice for 2,000 hours for a 30-minute performance.
Wow, that's amazing.
Just, when you look at all of the practice, just getting it down perfectly, and of course having the coordination with all of the dancers and everything. Mm-hmm. We talked about the idea, somebody like a Tiger Woods or a Michael Jordan. If you saw the documentary recently with Michael Jordan, how they will sit there and practice something for thousands and thousands and thousands of times, so that the muscle memory becomes part of their subconscious. And then that way, when it's time to perform, they can do so without even thinking about it. It's what makes somebody a master at something something versus somebody that is just an amateur at something. And, the analogy that I always give is imagine that you're a professional NBA ball player, you get fouled. And so you're sitting there, referee throws you the ball. And of course you've got the opportunity to go ahead and, shoot your free throw. And, you've got people behind you that are there in the stands, waving those noodles and yelling and screaming at the top of their lungs, miss it, and they're trying to distract you. Well, to overcome all of that distraction and just sit there and bounce the ball 3 times and swish, it's not that they're good. It's that they've done that so many times that it's just now part of their subconscious. It's like anything else. Tiger Woods, going out and, hitting a 6-foot putt. He's done that putt thousands of times before that putt he has to make in the Masters. He could probably do it with his eyes closed. Just take a look at the cup, take a look at the ball, close your eyes.
Yeah.
Probably sink it.
Oh,
but
yeah.
The nail on the head. It's the practice that leads up to the success so that ultimately when you're there, you're not just shooting from the cuff. You're not shooting from the hip. And that's something that a lot of people don't get. They'll be given a golden opportunity and they think about it, but then they don't prepare. And when they get up there, it's obviously, quite obvious in the lack of preparation because they don't come across looking like a professional. Well, let's talk about, kind of your future. Been successful. You've got this business. You're working with big time people. What's in the future for Matt Buchanan? Kind of where would you like to be? How big would you like to build your agency?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I see for me in terms of the future of pioneers of marketing, dominating the space. And the reason why is because there's nobody out there right now that is working with businesses and people like you and I that are dominating this space. So I see a really big opportunity with this. In terms of revenue wise, I mean, I genuinely want to bring it to about a $10 million business. That's my goal, between a $5 to $10 million business.
Right.
That's my goal for it in the next 2 to 3 years. That's my goal. I mean, I'm at the point right now where I know there's a lot of opportunity with social media and I know how much it's helped me. And my goal is to use social media as an outlet to help more business owners get closer to their goals, because the digital and social side of things, it plays a massive role in today's world. You know it, Grant knows it, everybody knows it, because everybody's always on their phones. So what our goal is and what our vision is to be that bridge, and be that team, be that company, and be that face and that brand of people that are helping people take that leap from that old world of not sure what to do, not sure how social media works. Does it even work? Is it worth my time? Is it worth my money? To social media is one of the biggest things that's allowed me to hit my business's goals. So that's the vision for it. And when I saw this, when I was in school, when I went to school, like 4 years ago, I saw everybody on their phones. And then I saw people literally watching SportsCenter on Snapchat.
Yeah.
So I said to myself, the only reason why I ever watch television is to watch SportsCenter. That's it, unless there's a live sports game. Now that we can watch that on Snapchat, why do I even need to go on my TV? So when that happened 4 years ago, I was like, that's a massive opportunity. There's a lot of attention that's going to go from television to social media. And television, TV ads already are priced at millions and millions of dollars to do. Obviously, Super Bowls, millions and millions of dollars, but regular TV ads are a lot of money in the first place. So, my vision is to just help people with that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things where if you're in business, let's just say you're a real estate agent and you're successful as a realtor, you're doing well, you've got great listings, you're making your 6 figures. If you could then overlay social media on top of that success and boom, explode an audience of followers, man, you could take your real estate career to the next level. I mean, you could go ballistic. And I was actually talking to a couple of guys up in Canada that are doing just that. That literally, this one guy's got 45, almost 50,000 followers on Instagram. He's a very successful real estate agent. He's like, man, I'm getting people reaching out to me just on Instagram, wanting me to list their properties. And they're not even up here in Ontario. It's just that they're following me. They could be over on the other side of the entire country. But the fact that they know me and they feel that connection, and it's really a connection, I guess, that people feel when they become a follower. He's getting listings now all over the country. And it's really just allowed him to kind of take his career to the next level. One question I guess I have for you is kind of, we're wrapping up here, is maybe share like 2 or 3 secrets, Matt, for people that are listening that they maybe can implement themselves on how they can attract more followers to their Instagram profile. But really more importantly than that, it's also keep them once they get them, because it's one thing to get a follower, but I think it's more important for people to understand that you want to keep those followers
Yeah.
once you actually get them. And I've looked at a couple of secrets that seem to be working really well for us. But what are a couple of secrets that you have maybe that you could share with our followers on Beast Nation?
Yeah, happy to do that. So principles. There's principles for everything, like you know better than I do. You've been in business longer than I have, and you've done amazing, amazing things. You know, with anything to be successful, there's proven principles you have to follow. And when you follow those proven principles, you're going to be able to accomplish the same result that led other people down the same road when they followed those principles. And the reason why I'm saying that is because altitude and influence is 2 of the most important principles on social media. We always need to be looking for ways on how we can have altitude and influence over the people that are following us, because just like John Maxwell talks about all the time, leadership is measured by the amount of influence that you have over other people. And in order for us to monetize our audience or monetize our social media following or generate revenue or leads or business from that, and I'm going to get to the exact actionables in a second, but this is the big picture first. In order for us to achieve that, we have to have altitude and influence over other people. We have to. That's why you see people like Grant Cardone, again, whether you like him or you don't like him, that's why you see people like him collaborating with Kevin Hart or Floyd Mayweather or people like that, because those people have reach and they have altitude and influence over somebody like me. So even when I see Grant around somebody like that, I'm like, oh man, why, like, what's the deal here? Why are they together? You know? So I'm open to hearing Grant out and going to that event, because those other speakers, Kevin Hart, Magic Johnson, those other people, they have influence and altitude over me. So now Grant has something that I want, which is the relationship with Kevin Hart or the ability to have a conversation or take a picture with Magic Johnson. So now I want what Grant has. Yeah. And to circle back to social media, something that somebody can apply today to grow, to bring in more business using social media, is to start creating a personal brand on social media. A personal brand is a component of 3 different aspects. The first one is your audience. Yep. Second one is your Instagram stories. And your third one is your Instagram wall posts. Those are the 3 different components of a personal brand. The result of the personal brand, by the way, is to generate altitude and influence over other people. That's the result of it. So getting into those 3 components of how somebody can apply that, the first thing is everybody should be growing their audience. They should be getting more people they can pitch to on their page and more followers on their page, because what it does is it helps to create that personal brand so people take you seriously. Just like how you and I connected through an Instagram direct message. That would have never happened if I did not take my content seriously, if I wasn't having those mastermind calls with other people that you saw, if I only had 5 followers on my Instagram page. That would have never happened because you never met me before and you would have been like, who is this kid? I'm not going to answer. It's just another random guy messaging me, you know? He's probably trying to sell me something right now.
So, you did on the first time I talked to you.
Yeah, I did. But you still took my call. And I still got your cell phone number too. Yeah. Now, the 3 components of that personal brand is audience size. Second one is Instagram stories. I'd post out on your Instagram story just like you do at least 6 times a day. The third one is on your wall. I would have at least 3 wall posts going out per week, 2 to 3 wall posts out per week. It depends on where you're at in the cycle. And every single person on here should be collaborating with people that have altitude and influence over their target market. That's why I have those relationships with Jared Glant. That's why I have those relationships with Elena Cardone and Brandon Dawson, Grant's business partner, and Richie Dolan and Bobby Castro, because I know that all of those people have altitude and influence over my target market. So when I come after them with ads or sending them direct messages or call them on the phone, they're like, oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. You had a mastermind with Richie. So they look up to those people already. And now when I collaborate with them and then I use that as content on my page, that gives me altitude and influence over other people. That's why I've grown my followers. That's why I got to 130,000 followers, because now when I have that number there, all it is just a perception. When somebody sees that, they're like, why does this guy have 130,000 followers?
Sure.
Now I have their attention. I have their full attention. And now they're actually going to go through and look at my content. It's the first thing that somebody's going to look at. They're going to look at your followers. Why do you think Grant Cardone has 2.8 million followers on his Instagram?
Oh yeah. I mean, absolutely.
It's the same thing.
And it's amazing that you've just brought that up, because I noticed on my posts, a lot of times I'll go there and I'll look and I'll see a new person and it's like, holy shit, they looked at like 20 posts in a row, and it's like, they didn't just check out your latest posting. It's like, boom. Okay. They look at that.
Yeah.
Or the one the day before. And it's kind of like you said, they're checking you out. It's that social proof where, people will find you through somebody else. It's usually a connection. And then they're like, well, I need to know who this dude is too. And so they come over, they take a look at you. They see that you have 20,000, 40,000, or, in many cases, a couple 100,000 followers. And then of course the key, and what I've been doing, which has been really working well, is leaving that person a voice message. Hey, Matt Buchanan, Coach Brad here. Just want to thank you for being a follower. If there's anything I can ever do for you on Instagram, introduce you to any of my connections, just let me know. Here to be of value. Boom. And then immediately what I do is I go follow them right back, because what that does is it solidifies that relationship. And you have all these people, like you said, you've got influence over them. They're like, holy crap, I actually got a message from the dude.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like pissing in their pants, that I would call. But I mean, realistically, how long does it take to leave a 20-second message on Instagram? You just push the button, you record
So
it.
quick.
But now that other person that's following you is like, wow, now I feel like a person, right? Because everybody likes to hear their name. They like recognition. They feel you've given them a sense of recognition. And the most important thing, of course, because I know that with Instagram, you're always going to see your account kind of go up and down as Instagram cleanses and they remove all the bots and stuff like that, is really just to be looking at what I call that trajectory. It's realizing that, yeah, you might lose some people, but if you're organically growing and you've got a positive trajectory month over month, quarter over quarter, then, boom, you're definitely doing the right thing with your social media. No, this has been absolutely great, Matt. One thing I want to ask as we kind of wrap it up, because I know you can add a lot of value to a lot of business people out there, and I want to drive as many entrepreneurs, as many people that need organic growth in social media to you. What's the best way people can reach out to you? Is it on Instagram? Is it to go to your website? What's the best way that our beast can actually get connected to Matt Buchanan?
Yeah, I love that. And I appreciate that, by the way. The best way is I would just go to my Instagram, send me a direct message. My Instagram's Matt with 3 T's. And then Buchanan, my last name's Buchanan. Anybody can follow me there, direct message me, or you could even shoot me. I have a number as well, 908-914-1888. That's a specific business line too. Anybody can text that number, follow me on Instagram. I'm all about relationships. That's why I've been able to get in contact with Richie Dolan and Jared Glant and all these different people, and they're people just like you and I, but it's because I'm focused more on the relationship. And I was just raised from my grandpa since the day I was 13, going around shaking people's hands, mowing their lawn, door knocking on doors to mow lawns, that you can't ever change what it is you're going to promise somebody that you do. Like what you say, your word, it's bond.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, that's why I wanted to get on this podcast with you. That's why I'm always, when everybody else, like you're mentioning, when you're my age, everybody else is out partying and on weekends and things like that, I'm going to networking events and I'm doing all these things because that's just my hunger, So man, it's so awesome. And by the way, I'm being serious when I say this. I look up to what you're doing. It's so inspiring to watch what you're doing, and
appreciate you.
You're in Texas too. So of course I want to live in Texas now. So
you got to get yourself down here, man. We'll have adjoining offices. We'll have Pioneers. All my social media. I'll be right down the hall. We'll blow each other up.
Let's go.
Albert Preciado, who I'm a big follower of, says one of the best things he ever did for his company and his marketing, of course, was to go out and buy his Ferrari. And, I think at the time he bought it, it's probably half his net worth. But then people are like, holy shit, who is this kid? That's driving around in this fancy sports car. I need to follow him. I need to know him. And of course, he used that as a marketing tool. So when you get to the point where you can go out and buy a Lambo or a McLaren or Ferrari, what's your car of choice? What's going to be the marketing bullet for 5 years of marketing? What are you going to have parked out in front of your office?
Yeah, I love it. That's a good question, to be honest with you. I need to figure that out. I really, man, I don't know. I mean, I know I've heard a lot of people say that like Albert told me that he did the same thing too. And I was like, it's so smart. Cause I didn't think about that when he was saying
Ben
that.
Humble up
Wow,
in
it's all about attention.
yeah, Ben Mirasan up in Canada, the Humble CEO's got the white Lambo. You know, I'm looking at a Bentley Continental GT coupe, you know, convertible. You know, and so you know, those are fast to sell. They're nice. Top down here in Texas, be kind of nice to be cruising around in the old Bentley, but you know, it gets attention. You're absolutely right. And you know, so much of this social media, as you said, is attention, affluence. You know, whether it's wearing a, you know, Hublot or a Rolex or an Audemars or whatever, that big watch is that, you know, is bold and sticks out, you know, having the money shots. It's a lot of it. It's advertising. And a lot of people don't understand that is, you know, you really need to understand that, like you said earlier, what you're really creating for yourself is a brand. If you're in sales, if you're in business, if you're an entrepreneur, it's really understanding that you are the face of that business. And you want to brand yourself so that when people see you, or in my case, they see the beast, in your case, they see your boat, boom, that's pioneers of marketing, right? It's a recognized logo like the Nike swoosh or like Grant's 10X. So,
Love
man,
that.
this has been fantastic. Matt, I wish you tremendous success. Great
Likewise.
nuggets of information. I'm going to get this edited. We're going to push it out here in the next couple days. We'll make sure we share the links, of course, with you so that you can use it on your social media as well. It's been fantastic hosting you. Everybody, again, it's Brad Blazer with Matt Buchanan, the founder of Pioneers of Marketing.
Thank you so much for having me here, Brad.
You bet.